Hey y'all, welcome to the next session of how to sell more books from a table. So we have talked about what to wear. We have talked about our smile. Now we're going to talk about what to say. So I realized that I have actually sprinkled this in several times into what I've been teaching before, but today we are just going to focus on what to say at the table. All right, so first of all, we have our postcard or whatever. I don't actually have one on me, so I'm just gonna hold this and pretend like it's a postcard. And remember that what we have is so cheap that we can give it away all day to everyone who walks by without our hearts melting inside, okay? So if you're a frugal person like me, that means it needs to cost you like a couple of pennies, not $2 each. When I see people handing out magnets, I'm like, oh, I don't want a magnet. But like if I handed out a magnet, even if it only costs me 50 cents, right? If I hand out 300 magnets in a weekend, my heart hurts a little bit because at 50 cents each is $150, right? So anyway, so have something super cheap but fun. We've talked about this before. Go back and review if you need to. But anyway, so imagine you're at your table and someone is walking by. It's so simple. Are you ready? Did you get your postcard? Or did you get your bookmark? Whatever it is you're handing out. Did you get your... So now let me tell you something. I'm going to be really honest here. And this is every time you show up to a table, you're a different version of yourself. I like to call myself an ambivert. Sometimes I'm really outgoing and sometimes I just want to hide behind my table, and it really just depends on my mood and the people that are around me and everything, right? And so sometimes I have a really hard time being like, did you get your postcard? To someone who's like on the other side of the aisle and not even making eye contact. But what I have realized on those very outgoing days that I have, I am like, there are people on the other side of the aisle. They're not even making eye contact with me. They haven't glanced at me. And I am like, did you get your postcard? Y'all, the number of books I have sold to people like this. And I think in our minds, we so often want to say they're avoiding us. They don't want to stop at our table. And that's why they're on the other side of the aisle. That's why they're not looking at me. But so often people are lost in conversation, they're lost in thought, they're going to the next place, not even thinking about the vendors that they're walking by. I have sold so many books because I was bold and I flagged people down from across the aisle, okay? Now, do I do this to the first person who walks by? No. I find that I have to warm up a little bit. I have to warm up with the easy people who are making eye contact. But when someone walks by, it is very simple. You say, did you get your postcard? People want to say no. We're just ingrained human psychology to say no. So by saying, did you get your postcard? People get to say, no, I didn't. And then you hand them one. So they got to say no, but they still get the freebie. All right, so one of two things is gonna happen right here. They're either gonna zoom on by, take the postcard and run. Occasionally someone will say no to the postcard, but very rarely, okay? So they're gonna zoom on by and you just let them, okay? We are not a steel trap. We are not scary. We are not like the car salesman that doesn't let you go, or the mall kiosk person that is gonna go rub creams on their hand, right? If they don't wanna be there, let them go. You've given them a postcard. It only costs you a couple pennies. It is not a big deal. Let them go. I have also sold books. I'm not going to say that this is the norm, but I have sold several books by people who zoomed on to their next thing because they're in a hurry, and then they circle back a couple hours later because they looked at my postcard and they were interested in my book. Okay? So let them go if they're in a hurry. But the other thing that happens is they'll get your postcard or your bookmark and they'll pause and look at it. That's your chance in the pause. And so this is what I normally do. Are you ready? It's super simple. I say, what kind of books do you like to read? That's it. Ask them a question to get them talking about themselves. Get to know them and what they like. If someone likes a murder crime thriller thing, I usually will joke and be like, there's kind of a mystery in my book, but I know that realistically my book is probably not a match. If someone says, I like to read true stories, I'm like, ding, 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 ding. I'm here for you, right? And so this is your chance. And this is something that I am very passionate about. Get to know the authors around you. Know the authors 3 tables down. Figure out what they write. Even if you have zero interest in what they write, when you ask someone, when you say, what kind of books do you like to read? And they're like, I love smutty romance. Well, you know what, guys? I don't write smutty romance. I don't even read smutty romance. But 4 tables down is the girl. And so I am going to send that person, I'm going to be like, oh, I am not your table, but 4 tables down is. You've got to check her out. We are each other's advocates. I am a huge proponent of this. I actually did a book festival a couple years ago. Not even, but I did a book festival, and I'm pretty sure half of my sales came from other authors. And I don't know if they were interested in my book or if they were just being nice because I was sending so many readers to everyone else. But the thing is you want to find your audience. And so when you ask someone, what do you like to read? You're going to find out if this is your audience or not. All right. And we're going to help out the other people who you like, help them find their place. You are a matchmaker. Okay. And when you have this attitude and you can get a few other authors around you with the same attitude, when you are giving, then they're going to want to give to you. And so we're going to have the opposite happen. The romance girl might say, oh, when someone says, oh, I love true stories or I love faith-based stories, then that girl might say, oh, I am not the table, but you need to go see that girl, Sarah. She's 4 tables down. Right. And so let's create this atmosphere of supporting each other. And it starts with one person. You might say, well, so-and-so's not doing it. He's not doing it. She's not doing it. It starts with you. Okay. So you've given them your postcard. Did you do your postcard? No, they give it. And then you say, what kind of books do you like to read? So almost always you can find something in your book that matches up with what they like. Like I said, my book has a little mystery in it because my horse was stolen. So when someone says mystery, I'm like, well, I can tell you about my book. And so, you're always, you ask the question, you get to know them, you talk a little bit. When someone says fantasy, I'm like, well, I love to read fantasy too, but that's not what I write. I can tell you a little bit about my book. And most people are at a book event or they pause at books because they like books. Okay, so they're happy to hear about your book. And so this is where you have your little elevator speech. Okay, if you have read, I think it's Save the Cat, they talk about having just like a 3-line thing about your book. So my spiel it was kind of born from that Save the Cat ideology of just something quick that you can get out that is a hook for people. And so for me, it's like 3 parts. So Finding Gideon, which is my main book, is about when basically growing up, I had always dreamed of riding racehorses. So in college, I loaded up my horse and dog and I moved to Louisville, Kentucky to chase that dream. And as you can imagine, everything like completely fell apart. I was in a bad accident and then my horse got stolen, like gone. And he was the love of my life. So this book is about me trying to chase this dream that like almost killed me, looking for my horse, and then also the faith journey of it, because I grew up in church and this was like not the good and loving God that I learned about in Sunday school. So there you have it. It's done these multiple things through that spiel. I'm gonna turn some readers off, which is good because you want to find your audience. So if someone is not interested in a faith story, which in my area there's a lot of people not interested in faith stories, then they're going to keep walking, and that's okay. Because the time you get bad, like really bad reviews is just because your book has been read by the wrong audience. So you want to match your book with the right audience so that you get glowing reviews, so that people are excited to read your book and excited to share it with the next person. So if someone is not interested in faith stories, I have just turned them off. If they're really into faith stories, I have just reeled them in. So I do basically the same spiel no matter what event I'm at, but I might emphasize different things depending on my crowd, right? So when I am at an event that's really horse focused, especially one of my main events that I go to is all about second careers for retired racehorses. Y'all, it's like a whole industry, okay? So second careers for retired racehorses, and we set up a table. And when I'm at that event, I really emphasize that I had dreamed of riding racehorses, and I moved to Louisville, Kentucky, because that is like racehorse mecca, right? So I moved to Louisville, Kentucky, and everything fell apart and my horse was stolen. And people are like, what? You know, and it just reels them in. So I'm saying the same thing, I just might emphasize pieces of it more. Whereas when I'm not at a horse thing, I don't emphasize the horse stuff as much. I'm more talking about it in the thoughts of my dream. I had always had this huge dream of riding racehorses. And so when I was in college, I left everything. I left my scholarship, I left my family, except I took my horse and my dog to chase this dream in Kentucky. You know, so I'm really focusing on the dream. It's basically the same spiel, right? I am just rewording it a little bit depending on my audience. And this is something that has developed over time. So my homework for you today is to come up with your little spiel, and it needs to be something you can say in like 30 to 45 seconds. Let me, kind of a negative story on this thing. I one time was set up next to a lady who had like 6 books or something, and every time someone came by her table, if they paused, she would tell them the plot, like the whole plot of all 6 books. They don't need to buy it anymore. They know exactly what's happening, right? And so that's just a warning story to you, because not only did it hurt her sales, because who needs to buy a book when they've heard the whole plot anyway? And people are just really wanting to leave at that point. They don't even want to pick up a book unless they're picking it up just to like leave the table. But then it hurts the next several tables because that person does not want to pause. So it hurt my sales. It hurt like the sales of people further down. So please don't give the whole plot of your story. I highly recommend, if you have something that can be cliffhangery, to give that cliffhanger. So for me, my cliffhanger is, I mentioned my horse was stolen and I was trying to find him. I never say in my spiel if I found him. And this has been a huge selling point for me, because people will say, well, did you find your horse? Especially horse lovers. They all want to know, did you find your horse? And I'm like, gotta read the book to find out. And I have sold so many books because I'm like, you gotta read the book to find out. And there was one time where this lady came up to me and she said, just tell me, I promise I'll buy the book. You just have to tell me. And I was like, fine. And I told her if I had found the horse. And she never bought the book. She never came back. She got the answer she wanted. She never bought it. So if you can think of some little cliffhangery thing in your book to make them need to know the answer, do it. And do not, under any circumstances, give the answer away, okay? So I'm actually in the process of working on my next book and looking into marketing for that. And even as I say this, I'm thinking, what can be my cliffhanger for this that makes people go, well, did they save their marriage? You know, or whatever. And I'm gonna be like, gotta read the book to find out. All right, guys, so this was today on what to say when people come by the table. Our next session is gonna focus on closing the sale, which is a very important part of sales, is closing. Closing is when you actually make it happen and collect the money. So it's very simple. Don't get scared. It'll be a quick video, but make sure you check in for the next session of closing the sale. Thanks, y'all. Oh, and today's homework is to write down your spiel in the comments. And again, it's going to evolve over multiple events. It'll continuously evolve forever. But write down, if you had a table today and you had to give a quick spiel about your book, what would it be? Write in the comments. All right. Thanks, y'all. Have a great day. Bye.